You know that feeling when you sit down on a Sunday night, open up a spreadsheet or some budgeting app, and you tell yourself, this is it. This is the month I finally get my money under control. You map out every dollar. Rent here, groceries there, maybe a little for coffee, a bit for savings. It feels good. It feels responsible. You close your laptop feeling like you just took control of your life. And then Tuesday happens. Your car needs an oil change you forgot about. Your friend's birthday dinner pops up. You're exhausted from work and you order takeout because cooking feels impossible. By the end of the week, the budget is blown. And you're sitting there thinking, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just stick to this? Here's the thing, it's not you. It's the budget. Most people think budgeting fails because of a lack of discipline. Like if you just tried harder, cared more, had more willpower, you'd finally crack the code. But that's not how this works. Because budgeting, the way most of us are taught to do it, was never designed for actual human beings. Think about it. Traditional budgeting asks you to predict the future. It asks you to know, on the first of the month, exactly how much you'll spend on gas, on food, on random life stuff that hasn't even happened yet. And then it asks you to stay inside those lines no matter what comes up. No flexibility. No forgiveness. Just a rigid set of rules you're supposed to follow while life does what life does, which is throw curveballs. And when you inevitably go over in one category, the whole system falls apart. You feel like a failure. You give up. You tell yourself you'll try again next month. And the cycle repeats. But here's what nobody tells you. The problem isn't your discipline. The problem is that budgeting ignores two fundamental truths about being human. 1, we are terrible at predicting our own behavior. And 2, money is emotional, not logical. Let me explain what I mean. There's this concept in psychology called the planning fallacy. It's the idea that we consistently underestimate how long things will take and how much things will cost. We do this with everything. We think we'll finish a project in 2 hours. It takes 5. We think we'll spend $50 at the grocery store. We spend $80. It's not because we are bad at math. It's because our brains are wired to be optimistic. We imagine the best case scenario and we plan for that, even though life rarely goes according to the best case. So when you sit down to make a budget, you're basically asking your optimistic brain to predict your realistic spending. And your brain says, sure, I'll only spend $200 on food this month. I'll meal prep. I'll be efficient. Meanwhile, reality says, you're going to get busy, you're going to get tired, and you're going to need that rotisserie chicken from the store more than once. And that's just the prediction problem. The emotional problem is even bigger. Because money isn't just numbers. Money is security. Money is freedom. Money is status, stress, hope, fear, guilt. Every time you spend money, there's an emotional transaction happening underneath the financial one. And traditional budgeting completely ignores that. Let's say you budget $30 for coffee this month. Sounds reasonable, right? A couple lattes a week. But then you have a terrible day at work. You're stressed, you're overwhelmed, and you stop at the coffee shop on the way home because it's the one small thing that feels like taking care of yourself. You're not buying coffee. You're buying a moment of peace. You're buying a feeling of control in a day where everything felt out of control. And when you look at your budget later and see you went over on coffee, the budget doesn't say, hey, you were stressed and needed comfort. It just says, you failed. You broke the rule. And that shame makes you less likely to engage with your budget next time, not more. This is why so many people start budgets and quit within a month. It's not laziness. It's that the system punishes you for being human. So what's the alternative? If traditional budgeting doesn't work, what does? This is where the mindset shift happens. Instead of trying to control every dollar, you need to build a system that works with your behavior, not against it. The first thing to understand is that your spending has patterns, even if it doesn't feel like it. You might not spend the same amount every single month, but over time, there are trends. You spend more in December because of holidays. You spend more in summer because of travel or air conditioning. You have certain categories where you're consistent, rent, subscriptions, and others where you're all over the place, food, entertainment, random Amazon purchases. The goal isn't to force yourself into rigid boxes. The goal is to see the patterns, understand them, and then design your financial life around them. Here's an example. Let's say you track your spending for 3 months and you realize you spend anywhere from $400 to $600 a month on food and eating out. The traditional budget says, pick the lower number. Discipline yourself. Stick to 400. But that's setting yourself up to fail 5 out of 12 months. A better approach? Accept that you're a $500 a month food person. Maybe some months it's $450, maybe some months it's $550, but that's your range. So you build your system around that reality. You automate your savings first. You cover your fixed expenses. And then the money that's left is for food, for life, for flexibility. You're not trying to be someone you're not. You're designing a system for the person you actually are. This is called reverse budgeting, or pay yourself first. Instead of budgeting every category and hoping there's something left to save, you save first and then spend what's left. It removes the guilt. It removes the shame. Because once your savings is automated, once your future is taken care of, the rest of the money is yours to use without judgment. And here's the psychological shift that makes this powerful. When you save first, spending doesn't feel like failure. It feels like permission. You're not breaking a rule. You're living your life with the money that's meant for living. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. That sounds nice, but what if I don't have enough money to save first? What if I'm barely covering my bills as it is? That's a real and valid concern. And this is where we have to separate two different problems. One is a budgeting problem. The other is an income problem. And they require different solutions. If you're in a situation where there genuinely isn't enough money coming in to cover your needs, no amount of budgeting is going to fix that. You need more income. That might mean a side gig, a job change, negotiating a raise, or finding ways to cut big fixed expenses, not by skipping coffee, but by getting a roommate, moving somewhere cheaper, or cutting a car payment. Those are hard, structural changes. But they're the only things that actually move the needle when the math just doesn't work. But if you do have some margin, even a little, the pay yourself first approach still applies. Maybe you can't save $500 a month right now. Maybe it's 50. Maybe it's 20. That's okay. The amount matters less than the habit. Because once you prove to yourself that you can save first, even a small amount, you start to see money differently. You start to see yourself differently. You stop thinking, I'm bad with money. And you start thinking, I'm someone who saves. I'm someone who plans ahead. And that identity shift changes everything. There's another piece to this that doesn't get talked about enough. And that's the role of friction. Traditional budgeting creates friction in the wrong places. It makes spending feel difficult and shameful. But it makes saving feel optional and distant. We need to flip that. The easiest way to do this is through automation. Set up your paycheck so that a percentage goes directly into savings before you even see it. Make it so that saving is the path of least resistance. And then make spending, especially impulsive spending, just a little bit harder. I'm not saying cut up your credit cards or freeze them in a block of ice. I'm saying create small speed bumps. Maybe that means deleting saved payment info from your favorite shopping apps. Maybe it means waiting 24 hours before buying anything over $50. Maybe it means keeping your savings account at a different bank so you have to actively transfer money to access it. These tiny points of friction give your brain a chance to catch up with your impulses. They create a pause. And in that pause, you get to ask yourself, do I actually want this? Or am I just feeling something and trying to fix it with a purchase? Because here's the truth. A lot of our spending, maybe even most of it, isn't about the thing we are buying. It's about what we think the thing will make us feel. We buy clothes because we want to feel confident. We buy gadgets because we want to feel organized or productive. We order food because we want to feel taken care of. And none of those feelings are wrong. But if we are only ever addressing them through spending, we are on a treadmill that never stops. The feeling fades, so we buy again. And again. And we wonder why we are not getting ahead. So what does a healthier relationship with money actually look like? It starts with awareness, not judgment. It starts with looking at your spending and asking, what is this actually doing for me? Not in a shame way. In a curious way. When you notice you're spending a lot on takeout, instead of beating yourself up, you ask, what's going on? Am I too tired to cook? Do I need to simplify my meals? Do I need to ask for help? Is my job draining me so much that I have no energy left for basic tasks? Sometimes the answer isn't a budgeting fix. Sometimes the answer is a life fix. And that's valuable information. The goal isn't to spend $0 on anything fun or spontaneous. The goal is to spend intentionally. To know that your future self is taken care of, and then to use your money in ways that actually make your life better, not just fill a temporary void. This is what financial peace actually feels like. Not restriction. Not perfection. Just the quiet confidence that you're moving in the right direction. That you're building something. That even when life throws curveballs, and it will, you have a system that bends instead of breaks. Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that changing your relationship with money is easy. It's not. We live in a world that profits off of impulsive spending, off of making you feel like you're never enough and that buying something will fix it. We are constantly told to treat ourselves, to live a little, to not worry about the future because you only live once. And all of that is designed to make you spend now and stress later. But here's what I've learned. The people who feel the most relaxed about money aren't the ones making the most. They're the ones who have a system they trust. They're the ones who've stopped fighting against their own human nature and started working with it. They've stopped trying to be perfect and started trying to be consistent. And that shift, that one shift, changes everything. So if you've tried budgeting before and it didn't work, I want you to hear this. It wasn't your fault. You weren't broken. The system was. And now you know a different way. Start small. Automate something. Track your spending without judgment for a month, just to see the patterns. Build in flexibility. Forgive yourself when things don't go perfectly. And most importantly, remember that the goal isn't to never spend money. The goal is to spend it in a way that aligns with the life you're trying to build. Because at the end of the day, money is just a tool. And the best tool in the world is useless if it doesn't fit the hand holding it. You've got this. One step at a time.